It all started today after classes. It's only a 5-minute walk from the university to the dorm, but outside it was brutally cold. The kind of cold that doesn't just bite your skin, it seeps straight into your bones. I had forgotten my gloves. I hadn't even crossed the courtyard yet, and my fingers were already burning. A sharp, electric pain. It felt like if I bent them just a little too much, they would snap right off. By the time I reached my building, I could barely feel the keys in my hand. I remember fumbling with the lock. I remember the wind. And I remember thinking that I should have checked the forecast in the morning. Finally inside, I rushed into my room and cranked the radiator all the way up. The heater grumbled in protest. I spread my fingers in front of it, waiting for that familiar tingling warmth to return. But the warmth never came. I sat down at my desk and opened my laptop to work on my homework, but I couldn't type. My fingers had turned stiff, alien, like they didn't belong to me anymore. I looked down at my hands. They were pale. Not just pale from the cold, flat, almost drained of blood. It's nothing, I told myself. Circulation just needs time. 15 minutes passed. Then 30. The radiator was blasting heat. The room felt warm. I could feel it on my face and neck. But my hands were only getting worse. The pale color slowly shifted to a faint blue, creeping from the tips of my fingers toward the knuckles. That's when I started to feel uneasy. I pulled on a sweater. Then another one. I turned on a space heater and aimed it directly at my palms. I wrapped myself in every blanket I could find, turning into a ridiculous cocoon hunched over the glowing coil. Nothing changed. If anything, the cold was spreading. Now my forearms were beginning to pale. The skin looked thinner, tight. I glanced at the thermostat on the wall. 18 degrees. That made no sense. It felt much warmer than that. Still, I turned the dial all the way up and went to the sink to run my hands under hot water. I could feel the heat of the water. But somewhere deeper, beneath the skin, a blizzard was raging. It was as if the inside of my body was freezing faster than the surface could warm up. I stared at my reflection in the dark kitchen window. My face was flushed. It looked normal. My hands didn't. It had been almost an hour since I got back. My roommate should have been home by now. I grabbed my phone and typed a message. Dude, the heating died. I'm freezing to death here. 1 check mark. Sending. Network error. Sending again. That's when I noticed how quiet everything was. Dorms are never completely silent. Someone's always slamming a door, blasting bass through the walls, laughing in the hallway. But now, nothing. Not a sound. I tried calling a doctor, just to ask if this kind of reaction to cold was possible. The phone rang. An answering machine picked up. I called again and again, until suddenly it all stopped. No click, no busy tone. Just silence. I exhaled, and a cloud of vapor drifted from my mouth. At first, I blamed it on nerves. But then it happened again, a thin stream of fog hanging in front of my face. Inside the room, my skin began to change. The knuckles split with a fine network of cracks, like old paint peeling apart. The pain faded away. I couldn't feel my fingers at all anymore. The cold reached my shoulders and began crawling down into my chest. My legs had turned the color of old porcelain. The clock said 5 in the evening. My roommate should have been home an hour ago. The shock faded, replaced by panic. I rushed into the hallway. Empty. Every door closed. Lights on everywhere. Not a single sound. I ran down the stairs into the lobby. Empty. I stepped outside. The university courtyard lay before me like a dead landscape. Silence and stillness. No students. No cars. No movement. Snow edged the walkways. There was no wind. And then I noticed something strange in the glass doors of the main entrance. My reflection. It wasn't blue, and the skin wasn't cracked. For one fragile second, hope flickered. Maybe I had imagined all of it. I ran back to my room, straight to the bathroom mirror. I don't know what I expected, but not this. My eyes had sunk deep into their sockets. My skin wasn't just pale. It was gray, waxy, stretched tightly over my skull. My lips were blue. I looked wrong, not sick, not frozen, dead. I stood there staring at myself, waiting for the reflection to lag behind, to twitch, to prove it wasn't real. But it copied every movement perfectly. And then something clicked in my memory. Not an image, a sensation. The wind. I remembered how it cut into my lungs when I stepped outside the building. I remembered how my fingers started burning before I even crossed half the courtyard. I remembered fumbling with my keys, but not at my door. In the snow. I never reached the entrance. I remembered dropping my phone. I remembered falling to my knees. And I remembered the silence. Not like an empty hallway. This was the silence of snow. The kind of silence that swallows sound completely. I never opened the door to my room. Never turned on the radiator. Never sent that text message. That's why it never delivered. That's why no one answered. That's why the campus is empty. I pressed my palm against the bathroom mirror. The cold was gone. There was nothing anymore. I slowly walked back to my desk. The screen glowed. The cursor blinked patiently in the empty document, waiting. I don't know how much time I have. Calls won't go through. Texts won't send. I don't know if this message will get out. But maybe you can see it. If you're reading this right now, are your hands cold? And do you clearly remember how you got home today?